Welcome to Amateur Drawing Hour. So, let's start this out with a question for you. What's the most valuable piece on a chessboard? Maybe you're unfamiliar with chess, so here's your basic chess pieces. You have your pawns. They're kind of simple dudes. They can move forward and then attack with sneaky diagonal movements. Knights move in these freaky L shapes, and they can jump over pieces. This knight can go all to the black squares that I've highlighted here. Okay, that's a bit of a mess. Bishops can go any number of squares in a diagonal. Rooks, which look like little castles, can move any number of squares in a straight line. Simple, straightforward, very useful. The queen is kind of a boss, so she can do both the movements of the bishop and the rook, which is pretty cool. The king, by comparison, is like a lame version of the queen, where he can only move one square in any direction. However, if you lose the king, you lose the game. Therefore, you would say the king is actually the most valuable piece in the game. And this is scale that lots of chess players use to rank how valuable each piece is comparatively. So the scale looks something like this. Pawns are worth 1, knights and bishops are worth 3, rooks are worth 5, the queen is worth 9, and the king is priceless. And these values are determined by what these different pieces can do in comparison to the other pieces on the board. Alright, good job gamers. Question 2. How much do you feel like you are worth? I think there are two places where our minds generally go when we answer this question that are opposite to each other. On the one hand, our parents and our faith have told us that we have incredible value, we're unique, and we're priceless, and Christ died for us, and we're made in the image of God. Therefore, obviously, we are worth a lot. But there's a second place that our mind goes. How much am I worth in comparison to those around me? What place do I come in at the race? What are my grades like in comparison to my friends? How rich are my parents? Do I have as many friends as the other guy? Are as many people gonna miss me if I were to be gone as would miss Tom Cruise? And we take all this data and we start to place ourselves on a scale, kind of like the chess pieces, in comparison to other people based on what we can do. And I might think to myself, okay, I'm definitely more valuable than, I don't know, like a rabbit, but maybe not so much as like Elon Musk with his Cybertruck. So maybe I'll put myself somewhere around where the rook is on the chessboard. And I'm going to tell you right now that I think that this is a lie. I think it's not true, but it's a hard lie to get around because it's so ingrained in our individualistic cultural way of thinking. Now let's look at what the Bible has to say about this lie. We're going to go to 1 Corinthians 12, where the Bible describes the church, not the building of the church, but all of those who trust in Christ as a body, and Christ as the head of that body. Oh, yikes, kid. All right, that's better. And the members of church are not in competition for who is the most valuable. Instead, we are all part of the same organism working together. Let's take a look at the parts of your own body. What have we said to our hands? Well, you sure haven't been putting in as many steps for me today as the feet have. So, sorry, but you're gone. You'd probably say, well, that's kind of dumb. Like, you don't use your hands for walking. Or what if we looked at our ears and said, well, you kind of suck at seeing stuff, so obviously you aren't as valuable as eyes are to the body. See, the value of the different parts of our own bodies is not based on the recognition that we give them, or whether our noses can consume food as well as our mouths, but that's often how we feel about our lives. That if I tried hard enough, I, as a stomach, could somehow become a heart. And that's based on the lie that somehow a heart is more valuable than the stomach. And if I could just be like the heart, I might be satisfied. Imagine if your whole body tried to be a heart. Both are valuable for the body. And although one might get more attention, both are necessary for the body to function. Sometimes I view my life and the lives of the other Christians like we are writing our own stories, and we're kind of like in competition. We're trying to be the best body part that we can be, and we're trying to write the best story. But this is also a lie. You see, the truth is, we are all part of God's story. We're side characters in God's big narrative. And He's a much better author than all of us. You might not know what part of the body you are. Rest assured, just because you don't know what role you are playing or what gifts God has given you, that doesn't mean God isn't using you right now. All of us use our livers, and very few of us know exactly what they do for us. You see, your value is sealed in Christ. God made you for a purpose. You can find that in Ephesians 2, verse 10, where it says, "We are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." You are not a chess piece, and life is not a chess game. Your value is not based on what you can do in comparison to others. We are all different supporting organs in Christ's body, created for a purpose that He had in mind long before we came to exist. Now, the world may not give the same amount of honor to your gifts as to someone else's, but that's okay. Because 1 Corinthians 12 tells us that if one member suffers, all suffer together. And if one member is honored, all rejoice together. We're not writing our own stories. We're on God's team together, serving Him for His purposes.